Joe Biden leaves the White House on an unprecedented journey, a U.S. president traveling to Israel as it wages war. The prime intention to visibly demonstrate U.S. support in the most dramatic of ways. He goes with the full backing of Congress, the U.S. Senate at work to push through a bill providing material aid to Israel as well as humanitarian relief for Palestinians.
The Senate must above all work quickly and swiftly to draft, consider and pass a strong aid package for Israel as soon as we can. That includes military support, intelligence support, diplomatic help.
The Senate Minority Leader adds other elements to the presidential to-do list.
He needs to make it clear that his administration will do everything possible to keep Israel the time and the space it needs to conduct the required military operations for as long as it takes.
How many more holdouts, sir?
The House is still in turmoil, with majority Republicans sharply divided over ideology, leadership and policy. Yet amidst this division, there is one point of agreement among all: support for the state of Israel.
Well, I think the resolution first to show that the American people, through their representatives, support Israel and condemn Hamas and these terror attacks.
The deadline to refunding the government is fast approaching, but for most Republicans, the priority is to get a pro-Israel bill through the House. This on top of the $3.3 billion a year that Congress has never contested. The U.S. was the first country in the world to recognize Israel, the recognition by President Truman coming only 11 minutes after the provisional government declared statehood on May the 14th, 1948. And President Biden is likely to point to the drive to pass an Israel bill in the Senate and the House as clear evidence that recognition and support has never wavered. Mike Hanna, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Well, President Biden has also reacted to Tuesday's attack. In a statement, he says he is outraged and deeply saddened by the explosion at Al-Ahli hospital in Gaza and the terrible loss of life that resulted. He goes on to say the US stands unequivocally for the protection of civilian life during the conflict. Our correspondent Alan Fisher is in Tel Aviv for us. So, Alan, this hospital strike has thrown Biden's itinerary into disarray. What's his plan now after he lands in Tel Aviv in a few hours' time?
Well, his intention, of course, was to come and act as an honest broker, to show support for Israel, which he's done since hours after the Hamas attack, but also urge them to take care when it comes to their operations in Gaza, to minimise the humanitarian impact that it has. That argument has been made a lot easier after what happened in the hospital, and Joe Biden has instructed his national security team to carry out their own investigation to find out exactly what happened. He sees this as hugely important. The Israelis, of course, have already decided that they weren't responsible for this. But clearly he's flying into a situation that's a lot more volatile than he expected. But it may just strengthen his hand when he goes to argue with the Israelis that there is a danger that an extended operation in Gaza would leak global public support that they had immediately after what happened 10 days ago.
But now that Jordan has cancelled this summit with Egypt, the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, how does that affect Biden's credibility as an honest broker here?
It's embarrassing and it's a setback. Joe Biden believes that when he gets people in the room, he can negotiate, he can get people to come together. That's just disappeared, because when was the last time you heard of someone walking away from a meeting with the President of the United States? And that's exactly what the Jordanians, the Egyptians and the Palestinians have done. Now, the White House is putting a spin on it. They understand the need to mourn those who died. But this is embarrassing. There's no doubt about it. And it certainly hinders his ability to do what he was going to do, which was act even-handed. Visit Israel, then travel to Jordan for his tri-country summit. So it becomes a lot more difficult. He will speak to Mahmoud Abbas and President Sisi of Egypt on his journey home, but this is a long way to come to show support for Israel when at the end might be struggling to show anything for it.
Alan, on Tuesday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken was talking about a humanitarian plan, an aid plan. What happens to that now?
Well, of course, it's all been given to David Satterfield, who is the new presidential envoy, the special envoy to deal with humanitarian affairs. And he's trying to set up some sort of, first of all, safe corridor, but also to make sure that international aid gets in to Gaza. That now becomes a bigger task for him. It's hard to know how the dynamic of what's happened in the hospital will change things, but it might make things easier to try and get international aid into the Gaza Strip, because the Israelis, while denying that they were responsible, have undoubtedly been rocked back on their heels by the international reaction to what happened in Gaza late on Wednesday night.
OK, Alan Fisher joining us there from Tel Aviv. Thanks very much, Alan.